All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you had a wonderful day. It was another day of relief in the market, but it seems like everything's going crazy after hours because Tesla might have just saved the stock market. I know it sounds really weird, but hear me out. Their earnings were awful. Their margins were not as bad as expected. Then they pledged to ramp up the sales of cheaper vehicles, but then Elon Musk, he's on the call right now. He sounds very upbeat. It's different than some of the tone he's taken recently. He's talking about selling robots, but they are ripping after hours, and the market is going up with it. So are all of the chip names. There was good chip earnings out of TXM, but I'm telling you, a lot of things are ramping up, and maybe we forgot Tesla used to move the SPY a lot, and now this thing is getting us back into earnings mode. So, Chad, we got a lot to talk about. We had that relief today. There was even support with the data. We're getting a little bit more tomorrow, but now, after this Tesla report and what we saw, we got more earnings tomorrow before the bell, and then after the bell tomorrow, we start to hear from some of the mega caps and a couple of more chip companies. So, Chad, I have the breakdown, I got the plays, I have the keys, all that good stuff. What I need from you, a thumbs up on the video. Make sure you're subscribed, and if you don't know, we are live Monday through Friday, 30 minutes before open, youtube.com/the stock market. We will see you there in the morning, baby. Run it.
Working to the couch, it's a 2020 election. Live in the hills, but I still get a spread. Started with a live, but I still reinvest it. Feel how I feel, then you feel like it's a blessing. I just want the lesson, I just want protection. I'm up and I'm down, but the sound like progression. Farmer never plans if he waits for perfection. Finger to the down, hold it.
All right, off the bat, before we get into any keys, there were a couple of things today that you had to observe. Number one, we gapped up. You did not give back any of it. So compared to the last 6 days, by the morning, you were giving up some of that gap up. Today, we did not look back at all. We got above the 5,000. I think we're closing right underneath 5,100, but you've ripped through every single level. And then the second part was the data. So if you go on the daily chart, you should see the pop, especially on the bonds. You could notice it, but we had the ISM data, and surprisingly, it came in weaker. Why that was surprising? Because the last time it came out, I think it was the highest in the last couple of years, and all of the data to start off the year was increasing. It was the first pullback, and now the ISM data came in the weakest out of the last 4 months. So that was good news. It really supported things. Bonds got a pop off of it, and the market was able to ride up. We were already feeling the relief. Earnings were good in the morning. You did not have any more of that drama overseas with the tensions, but there was a lot of drivers behind today. So this is where tomorrow and some of the data we're going to have to talk about, because you kind of had a bigger reaction than expected. But as far as what you saw in the relief now, it was day number 2. And if there was any unique factor, the fact that you had the bonds playing along with the data, that was the big difference compared to yesterday. The only thing that sucked was that by the end of the day, the bonds sold off. So this week to start off, it's been kind of hard to tell because markets have been able to recover 2 days while the markets are still, or the bonds are still in the gulag, but they had their bounce last week. So we'll see how this all plays out. But like I'm saying, today we got a little bit more updates, but clearly relief was the thing that was everybody is focusing on after several days of downside. I think even the VIX, it dropped down to 15 after touching 20 just 48 hours ago. So that was a big factor. And then the cherry on top, all the other earnings in the morning, they were good. Spotify was up in the morning, GM, GE, UPS, even if they ended up trading a little lower, they all generally reported good. And if they did find a way to trade lower, that whole theme of good, not great, it is still very much apparent. So we'll see how that all plays out. But like I'm saying here, after the bell, Tesla, that wasn't really the best earnings. It did sell off a lot coming into it, and people are finding things to get hyped hyped up again. We'll see what the analysts do, but like I said here in the beginning of the video, don't underestimate the impact of some of these stocks on the index. We saw some of that when the chips started selling off the other day, but even after hours here, good STX earnings and now good Tesla, this has added a couple points to the SPY. I mean, I'm pretty sure the futures are going to get a nice gap up here, so we'll see how that all plays out, but that's what sums up today. And now coming into tomorrow and the rest of the data, you will be getting the durable goods tomorrow, and that may have the ability to move us, but after what you saw with the PMI data today, I would definitely say keep an eye out for GDP and PCE because they might be a little bit more volatile. The fact that we had a little bit of pullback in the data, you saw that big reaction. We were talking about a bounce at the beginning of the week. We were saying how the bonds have had a lot of damage. Anything supportive could really help because it's been a few weeks in a row where we actually got something favorable. Again, even the ISM data today or the PMI data, when was the last time any data came in much lower than expected? It's felt like months since we've seen that because the story has been the data is getting worse and then everybody pricing out the rate cuts. So rate cuts even got a little bit of a bid off of that. So we'll see how that plays out. The only other factor I'll tell you for this week is that the event risk is still high. So GDP, PCE, Meta earnings, IBM, Google, Microsoft, there is still a lot riding. You're even seeing what one stock could do to the indexes after hours. Well, we are still pricing a lot here on the option chain, although we are still going to have some follow-up data in the coming weeks. This week is still packing a pretty big punch, so keep your head on a swivel. But that is key number 2. And finally, just to give you a little bit insight on the rest of the week, you may get a subtle big event with the Bank of Japan later this week. We got a couple of headlines. People are talking bonds and currency and all of that, so watch out for that. But in a broader sense, don't forget what the major theme is. Yes, it has to do with earnings. Yes, we're waiting for Powell and data, but in this short little macro, it's one, how the earnings setup is, but two, mainly the fact that we are waiting for the pendulum to shift, or this week gives you an opportunity to go from bad to now, if we get the next wave of data, the PMIs, the durable goods, the PCE, if we get this finally a shift of good data, you'll be shocked by how much relief that could really bring. So we're either going to find out the pendulum's going to swing the other way after getting a bunch of bad data, or we're going to watch it keep giving us bad data, and whatever you saw today, that relief, it was just temporary. So we'll find out, but definitely the market is in earnings mode, and Tesla's reminding you. But now, let us get into the plays. So, right off the bat, I got a couple of different plays. We made a couple of earnings plays. We even hit some of the ones from yesterday, so that was good, and we got a couple of follow-ups. But as far as tomorrow, IBM and Meta, I think these are going to be the big ones that we're going to see as far as earnings. Now, depending on how things open up tomorrow due to Tesla and everything else, we may be able to make a play early on and see how it goes. Otherwise, we'll see around the previews, but if they are pricing in a lot, I know I'm not going to play them. This earnings season, I've stayed away from the higher priced ones, and it hasn't really hurt me so far. We've been picking and choosing. We're already starting off with a nice little streak here. No 1,000%, but doing good, so don't want to force it, but I will keep an eye on the follow-ups. But IBM was a big one, and then IBM today, there was news that they were going to buy somebody. I think it was like CCP. No, that's China. I forgot who they were buying. Some HCP. They were buying Hexcel, something like that. But I made a short on it. We got like $200. It was a nice trade. Other than that, Meta, I don't have any plays, but I think it'll be important. And even though they're near highs and ran a lot, they're still pricing in like a $40, $50 move. That is huge considering how big they are. So watch out for these two. Definitely going to be the big ones for tomorrow. That is play number 1. Then play number 2. Netflix. So this one has to do with the play that I already have, but if you haven't seen the chart already, remember they had good earnings. That whole idea or the whole theme of good but not great, that kind of played in. Even though their subscribers beat by a lot, they sold off, went a little bit lower. We waited because those premiums were high on that Friday. We bought it on the Monday, and I grabbed, I think it was a next week like 607 call, I believe. Yeah, 607.5 call, but now it's got to the top end, and pretty much here's the deal. We either can sell off, maybe it pops up a little bit tomorrow morning, but if it really sells off from 580, then you're going to be trapped in this range between like 580 or 540. Otherwise, if it keeps going up, I mean, you're going to be looking at like 598, 600, and then maybe we get back to that 611. So our play has until next week. It's only Tuesday. It's already up 210%. So I really do like this play. I don't know. Does it show up here? Got to throw it up to link 5, but we grabbed one of these for 70 cents. Like I said, we waited. Kind of got a bottom tick on it. Honestly, not too bad of a price. I think there was like a little bit more downside. So we didn't buy it too high, not too low, but decent now. So going to be watching that. Going to be looking to take care of that play in the next few days. But literally everything I just told you on Netflix in those ranges, a lot of people are going to be looking at those and even wait for some upgrades and downgrades or even more continued earnings momentum. I would watch out for that, but either fill the gap or start selling off. I mean, Netflix, a lot of eyes are on it, especially after that report. So that is play number 2. And then finally, play number 3 is Spotify, baby. This one was crazy. You know, we have this in the small YouTube account for the long term, so shout out to that, but watch for any pullback. These plays low-key kind of frog today because they were pricing in a lot. The stock did good. It went up 10%, then slowly climbed another 5-6% intraday, and those options that were the same price as yesterday found a way to climb back up. So I would watch out for this because even if it has some pullbacks and then finds a way to keep continuing up after earnings, there could be some good potential on those options, but the spreads are very wide and they are kind of expensive. But that was an epic move, especially in the tech space, and their earnings were good. I would definitely keep your eyes out for this play. So that was the third play. As far as everything else, the only other plays that I made today, I got rid of those Nordstroms. Remember, I bought these the other day for like $17. I made $2,300. So we got out of that play. A lot of people have been asking about the gold short. I covered that one last night leading into the morning. There was an opportunity, a gap down. I closed out of that play for a $2,500 profit. So out of gold, out of Nordstroms. And then the only other play I made today was that I grabbed Visa in the morning. I was even going to sell it, but I was like, all right, I'll ride it out. Ari in the chat, they were telling me to hold it, so I was like, all right, I'm down. But I grabbed one of them for 35 cents. I was going to sell it out. I grabbed it in the morning. Plan was just sell it, 2 standard deviations. If there was a pre-earnings run-up, all the financials were doing good. I was like, we'll get a gain, but ended up holding it for $35. I grabbed a HCP. I forgot about this play, too, and the AT&T. AT&T was earnings, $18. It's 2 standard deviations. If you ran the calculation, they report tomorrow morning, but I grabbed the ones for May 17th instead of next week because slightly cheaper, and I was like, if they do have a little bit of run, if I'm only going to spend a couple more dollars, might as well get a little bit more of time. But this was like the only other earnings play. I did grab on my other one. Remember, I had old Humana shares I was down on. Well, I got clapped on those on the beginning of the year. I decided to average down, and I grabbed 75 Humana shares at $327.50, I think. So now I'm holding 100 with like an average of 370. So it's going to make it pretty easy for me to break even. Otherwise, I was down on this play, but if they could have a good earnings tomorrow morning, I'm going to look to exit that one. And then the plays from yesterday, the GE hit. So we spent $60 on that play. They're worth just under $200 now. We're going to lose about $50-$60 on the UPS and then another $30 on the GM unless they want to come back. But other than that, a decent start. Got a couple of the good post-earnings there with Netflix. Got out of the gold, and I'm still going to be watching gold. I'm going to make some other plays, but I'll be patient with it, or at least if it makes any extreme moves. But other than that, we're free to move. We have a lot of opportunity. We'll see where earnings takes us, but Chad, that is your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure Hydra Healthy ready to go. Make sure post your watch list. Make sure we see you there in the morning. I need the armor on. I need the helmet shining. And I need you to remember it's a battle. And there is an art of war, baby. It doesn't matter how much you know the enemy. You got to know yourself. Don't let being reckless lead to destruction. And don't let a hot temper make you lose the battle, Chadadonia. But I love you. Drink that water. Stay hydrated, healthy, all that good stuff. I'll see you in the morning and even after hours for all the earnings. But Chad, I love you and horn.